There is a place on Earth where two continents reach toward one another, where two great oceans pause at the narrowest distance they will ever share, and where human ambition forever altered the course of global history. It is a land of rainforests and coral reefs, of ancient cultures and modern skyscrapers, of quiet villages and roaring cargo ships. This is Panama, a country small in size, yet immense in influence. And to understand Panama is to understand how geography, perseverance, and human ingenuity can reshape the world itself. At dawn, mist clings to the jungle canopy as the first light slips through towering ceiba trees. Birds call out in layered harmonies, their echoes drifting through the humid air. Somewhere nearby, unseen rivers carve their way toward the sea, as they have for millions of years. Long before maps were drawn or borders imagined, this land served as a natural bridge, a corridor of life connecting North and South America. When the Isthmus of Panama rose from the ocean roughly 3 million years ago, it changed the planet forever, altering ocean currents, climate patterns, and the migration paths of animals across hemispheres. Humans arrived here thousands of years later, drawn by the same forces that still define Panama today: abundance, movement, and connection. Indigenous cultures flourished across the isthmus, including the Ngeb, Bagley, Mbara, and Kuna peoples. They lived in harmony with the land and the sea, developing complex societies built on fishing, agriculture, trade, and spiritual connection to nature. Gold was worked into art not for conquest, but for meaning. Paths through the jungle became arteries of exchange, long before the world knew what Panama was. Everything changed in the early 16th century when Spanish explorers arrived, driven by a relentless hunger for wealth and power. When Vasco Núñez de Balboa crossed the jungle in 1513 and became the first European to gaze upon the Pacific Ocean from the New World, he unknowingly set Panama on a course that would entangle it with global ambition for centuries to come. The Spanish quickly realized what the indigenous people had always known. This narrow strip of land was the key to movement, trade, and control. Gold and silver from South America flowed through Panama en route to Europe. Mule trains carried treasure across jungle paths between oceans. Port cities like Portobelo and Panama Viejo became vital links in a growing global network of empire and commerce. But with wealth came violence, disease, and exploitation. Indigenous populations were devastated. African slaves were brought to replace lost labor, adding another layer to Panama's complex cultural fabric. The land prospered, but at a terrible human cost. As centuries passed, Panama's strategic importance never faded. Pirates attacked its ports. Empires fought for influence. The jungle swallowed ruins and memories alike. When Panama became part of Gran Colombia in the 19th century and later fell under Colombian rule, its destiny remained tied to one persistent question: how could the world move faster between oceans? The answer haunted engineers, explorers, and visionaries for generations. The dream of cutting a passage through Panama was both irresistible and terrifying. Mountains, rivers, landslides, disease, the land itself resisted. The French tried first in the late 1800s, inspired by their success with the Suez Canal. What followed was one of the greatest engineering disasters in history. Malaria and yellow fever killed tens of thousands of workers. Entire fortunes vanished into the mud. The jungle reclaimed everything. But the dream did not die. At the dawn of the 20th century, the United States stepped into the story. Political intrigue, revolution, and global power dynamics converged on Panama in a matter of years. In 1903, Panama declared independence from Colombia, and almost immediately, construction began on what would become one of humanity's most audacious achievements: the Panama Canal. What followed was a monumental struggle against nature itself. Engineers redesigned the canal as a system of locks, raising ships above sea level and lowering them again, a solution never attempted at such scale. Scientists battled disease, discovering that mosquitoes spread deadly illnesses and learning how to stop them. Workers from the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, and the Americas labored under brutal conditions, reshaping mountains, damming rivers, and digging through solid rock. Over 75,000 people worked on the canal. More than 25,000 lost their lives across both French and American efforts. When the Panama Canal officially opened in 1914, the world changed overnight. Trade routes shortened dramatically. Global commerce accelerated. Panama became the beating heart of international shipping. And yet, for decades, the canal symbolized both progress and inequality. Controlled by the United States, it stood as a reminder that Panama's greatest asset was not fully its own. Beyond the canal zone, Panama continued evolving. Its cities grew. Its culture blended indigenous roots, African heritage, Spanish influence, and global migration into something uniquely Panamanian. Music, food, language, and identity fused into a vibrant mosaic. From the rhythm of tamborito drums to the quiet strength of coastal fishing communities, Panama remained deeply connected to both land and sea. As the 20th century unfolded, Panama's relationship with the canal became increasingly strained. Political unrest, protests, and negotiations marked the long road toward sovereignty. And finally, at the close of the century, control of the canal was returned to Panama, a moment of profound national pride and historic significance. Today, Panama stands at a crossroads once again. Modern skyscrapers rise above Panama City's colonial streets. Rainforests still thrive just miles from urban centers. The canal has been expanded to accommodate massive modern ships, proving once more that this narrow land continues to shape global movement. Panama remains a place where past and future collide, where ancient paths echo beneath steel and concrete. And yet the story is far from over. In the next part of our journey, we will dive deeper into Panama's people, its biodiversity, its modern challenges, and the extraordinary balance it maintains between nature, commerce, and identity. A balance as delicate and as powerful as the land itself. As Panama moved into the modern era, its identity began to crystallize not only around the canal, but around its people. The return of the canal in 1999 marked more than a political milestone. It was a psychological turning point. For the first time in nearly a century, Panama fully controlled the artery that had defined its destiny. Revenue from global trade now flowed directly into national development, reshaping education, infrastructure, and economic ambition. Panama City transformed rapidly. Glass towers rose along the Pacific coastline, reflecting the sun like mirrors of progress. Financial institutions established regional headquarters. International banks, logistics companies, and shipping firms anchored themselves here, drawn by stability, connectivity, and opportunity. From above, the skyline began to resemble a modern metropolis, a striking contrast to the dense rainforest that still surrounds it. Few capitals on Earth exist so close to untouched wilderness. Yet beyond the skyline, Panama remains deeply rural at heart. Travel just an hour outside the city and the landscape shifts dramatically. Jungles thicken, roads narrow, rivers widen. In the highlands of Cariquí, cool mist settles over coffee plantations nestled along volcanic slopes. Farmers cultivate beans and cacao using techniques passed down through generations. In these communities, time moves slower, anchored by land, weather, and tradition rather than global markets. The indigenous territories of Panama remain among the most culturally resilient in the Americas. The Kuna people of the San Blas Islands, known today as Gunayala, live on hundreds of small coral islands scattered along the Caribbean coast. Their brightly colored molas, sewn by hand, are more than textiles. They are stories stitched into cloth, symbols of resistance and autonomy. The Kuna negotiated one of the most unique arrangements in the region, maintaining political self-governance, while remaining part of the Panamanian state. Their success stands as a rare example of indigenous sovereignty preserved in the modern era. Panama's biodiversity is nothing short of astonishing. Though small in size, the country hosts more species of birds than the United States and Canada combined. Jaguars roam remote rainforests. Sloths cling to canopy branches. Poison dart frogs glow in impossible colors. Scientists study Panama as a biological crossroads, where North and South American species continue to mingle and evolve. The country's rainforests play a critical role in regulating climate, storing carbon, and protecting freshwater resources that sustain the canal itself. Few realize that the canal depends entirely on rain. Each ship that passes through the locks requires millions of gallons of freshwater, released from Gatun Lake, a massive artificial reservoir formed by damming the Chagres River. Climate change has made rainfall increasingly unpredictable. Extended droughts have lowered water levels, forcing authorities to restrict ship traffic. The canal, once seen as an unstoppable force of engineering, now stands vulnerable to environmental shifts beyond human control. This reality has sparked urgent conversations about sustainability. Panama invests heavily in conservation, protecting nearly one-third of its land through national parks and reserves. Scientists, engineers, and policymakers collaborate to balance commerce with preservation. The Canal Authority studies long-term water management strategies, recognizing that Panama's greatest economic engine is inseparable from its ecosystems. Socially, Panama remains a country shaped by inequality and opportunity. While urban centers thrive, many rural and indigenous communities face limited access to healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Migration from countryside to city accelerates, creating pressure on housing and services. Yet grassroots organizations emerge everywhere: community schools, environmental cooperatives, cultural initiatives, all working to close gaps left by history. Panama's cultural rhythm pulses through its music and celebrations. Carnival explodes with color and movement, uniting cities and villages alike. Salsa, reggae, and Afro-Caribbean beats echo Panama's connection to the wider Caribbean world. Spanish blends with English, indigenous languages, and Creole dialects. Identity here is layered, fluid, proudly hybrid. Internationally, Panama continues to punch far above its weight. As a diplomatic hub, logistics powerhouse, and bridge between worlds, the country plays a quiet but vital role in global stability. Every day, ships from nearly every nation glide through the canal, carrying food, fuel, medicine, and goods that sustain economies thousands of miles away. Panama is not merely a passage, it is a linchpin. But perhaps Panama's greatest strength lies not in steel gates or skyscrapers, but in resilience. This land has been invaded, exploited, reshaped, and challenged repeatedly, yet it persists. Its people adapt, negotiate, protect, and rebuild. They understand, perhaps better than most, that survival depends on balance, between nature and ambition, between tradition and innovation, between the past that shapes them and the future they must create. As the sun sets over the Pacific and rises again over the Caribbean, Panama continues its daily ritual of connection. Oceans meet, worlds pass through, and the story moves forward. In the final part of our journey, we will reflect on what Panama truly represents, not just as a country, but as an idea. A lesson in geography, humanity, and the power of narrow places to shape vast destinies. The true measure of Panama is not found in statistics or shipping logs, nor in satellite images of ships gliding through steel gates. It is found in moments quiet and profound, where the past and future meet on this narrow strip of land. At sunrise, when mist rises from the rainforest and the canal lies still, Panama feels less like a country and more like a living bridge, breathing between oceans, continents, and centuries. Standing at the edge of the canal, one can watch a ship move slowly forward, guided by precision and patience. Crews from dozens of nations work together, speaking different languages but following the same rhythm. The vessel carries cargo destined for distant cities, unseen hands waiting thousands of miles away. And in that moment, the realization becomes clear. Panama is not simply a shortcut. It is a point of trust, a place where the world agrees to pass through safely, carefully, and cooperatively. Yet Panama's story reaches far beyond its most famous engineering marvel. It lives in the forests that absorb rain and release life into rivers. It lives in the communities that still fish, farm, and gather as their ancestors did centuries ago. It lives in the songs, the festivals, the languages, and the customs that survived conquest and globalization alike. Panama's strength lies in its ability to hold contradictions, to be both ancient and modern, fragile and powerful, local and global. In an era defined by climate uncertainty, Panama offers both a warning and a lesson. The same geography that grants it global importance also leaves it vulnerable. Rising seas threaten coastal villages. Changing rainfall patterns strain freshwater reserves. Forest loss endangers biodiversity that took millions of years to evolve. But Panama also shows what is possible when conservation is not an afterthought, but a national priority. Protected lands, indigenous stewardship, and scientific collaboration demonstrate that development and preservation need not be enemies. Perhaps the most remarkable truth about Panama is how often it has been underestimated. Small on a map, quiet in global headlines, often reduced to a canal and little else. And yet, time and again, Panama has proven that narrow places can hold enormous power, that connection is as important as conquest, that cooperation can shape history just as forcefully as conflict. For centuries, people have crossed this land chasing wealth, opportunity, or escape. Some passed through, others stayed and built lives rooted in its soil. Each left a mark, sometimes painful, sometimes hopeful, but always part of a larger human story unfolding between oceans. Panama absorbed it all and continued forward, adapting without losing itself. As we step back and look at Panama from afar, we begin to see it not just as a nation, but as a metaphor, a reminder that the world is interconnected in ways we often overlook, that a decision made in one place ripples outward to affect countless lives elsewhere, that cooperation, patience, and respect for nature are not luxuries, they are necessities. The future of Panama, like the future of the planet, depends on balance, on choosing long-term resilience over short-term gain, on honoring history while embracing innovation, on remembering that progress is not measured only by speed, but by sustainability and shared benefit. When the last ship of the day disappears beyond the horizon and the jungle reclaims the soundscape, Panama remains steady, watchful, essential. A bridge that does not move, yet moves the world. Thank you for joining this journey through Panama, a land that quietly shaped global history and continues to influence our shared future. If this documentary expanded your perspective or deepened your curiosity, take a moment to support the story. Like the video, share it with others, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more cinematic journeys across our planet. Every interaction helps keep these stories alive. Because some places, no matter how small they appear, change everything.